So one time we were yet again at Sam and Jean's place hanging out, and after everyone went home, mind you, we're still in school, so we really went home at like 11. So I stuck around for a bit, as I often did, being, Sam and Jean's bestie at the time. And we were watching a movie, smoking weed, and Jean and I were on the bed, and Sam was at the computer. It's dark, the movie's running, and Jean and I were like talking, whispering for some reason. And I don't know why the mood between us got weird again. I don't remember anything like it preceding this moment. We were just strictly friends for those couple of weeks or so after we reconciled, but I guess it was his plan all along or whatever. I have been giving Jean a lot of benefit of the doubt for the way he felt about me, because up to this point he has really been restraining himself and watching himself with me, but from this point on it's just so disappointing and such a betrayal, and this part is very hard for me to get through because I'm just upset at myself and I'm just so disappointed in him. But yeah, I'll just have to get through it somehow. Yeah, our faces were again close to each other, and it was virtually the same thing as when we first kissed for real, and we were just laying there, and he looked at me and he whispered to me something along the lines of, if you want it to happen, you're gonna have to make the first move, or something like this. It's so yucky. Like, even then he was already thinking about covering his bases, about incriminating me, so to speak, so that I'm the one who did that, I'm the one at fault. So he had been just freeing himself for the responsibility because I made the first move to kiss him. And being the dumbass that I am, I kissed him, and I honestly don't know why. I have never been sexually attracted to Jean at all. At most, I loved like kissing and cuddling with him. That's all. So maybe for me it was just like the return to the pleasantness of what we did last time. But even then I should have known better. I should have known to stay away from that, because it ended up in this weird, pathetic situation. And why did I expect it to be different this time around? I don't know. I was 15 years old. I wasn't like 9. I still had a brain in my head. This is where I'm kind of starting to be a little bit upset at my actions. Don't get me wrong, I did a lot of things wrong in this whole story. But this is the point where I did know that I was doing something that will not lead to anything good. And the worst thing about it is I was doing it for no fucking reason, for no fucking reward. There was nothing for me in this whole thing at all. But I kissed him and we started kissing again. And another situation where my kisses happened in front of someone, like someone sitting right next to me. My quote-unquote ex-boyfriend, no less, even though that doesn't count. Sam, after a while, just stood up and just left because it was just so fucking awkward. And yeah, unfortunately, this is the day where it wasn't a PG kiss anymore, and basically he just removed my bra. That's all he did, and I feel so disgusting even talking about that. It wasn't bad or anything, but this day was just the beginning of the absolute end of us. That was him dropping all the pretense, all the moral code in quotation marks, and whatever. It was his first move, but it wouldn't be his last. This was the beginning of him trying to push me away from my girlfriends and from Tina. He started talking more and more shit about Tina again. He started inviting me and not inviting other girls. He started getting the boys to do the same. It I think that one is completely on me. It just laid bare the issues that I have been trying to suppress, the resentment that I've been trying to ignore. I have tried to suppress a lot of pain, and I have swallowed quite a lot of betrayal on Tina's part. I have tried to be the bigger person more often than not, and I think for someone just listening to my story up to this point, I sound like such a dumbass and sound very frustrating because I have given Tina so many chances and she has betrayed me, time and time again. I think that I overestimated how big of a person I could be, and the second Jean offered me a pocket universe where Tina could not access Jean anymore, she could not enter, and the same thing for Anne. All of a sudden, I tasted this freedom, and it was sweet. I did not even know that I felt so strongly about how much those girls interfered with my happiness. But the second they were gone, it was like my eyes were opened for the first time, and I saw how much happier I was without them around. It was just my luck, I guess, that those two girls that I let in and that I loved and trusted, Jean constantly put them in positions where they could overshadow me, walk all over my feelings and stuff like that, and it's hard for me to blame them, especially Anne. When Anne got to know me, all she knew was, Jean and I are friends, this and that, you can date him. And then she dumped him, and then him and I started making out. I don't even remember if she knew about it or not. Even if she knew that we made out, it's not like we were official. It's not like I even told her that I had some kind of feelings for Jean. But still, there was some resentment in my heart because we see each other every damn day in school, and then we hang out privately, we're on the phone, we're texting, whatever. You know that I'm around this guy a lot, and yet you say that you don't want him, that you don't care about him. Frankly, I did the same, so I don't know why I'm accusing her of the same thing I did, but she talked about how she did not even care about him and stuff like that, which was all for me like, must be nice, to not give a shit about him and have him, pine over you, but whatever. But then she still went to the movies with him, and she still started, like, I guess, being in touch with him, leading up to them starting to date again. I don't blame her, but I do feel like I did have grounds for resentment, and she also had the right to resent me for doing the same thing, and maybe she did. We never showed it to each other. But this time around, I started to become protective over my peace, and when Jean and I started messing with each other again, it was like, I won't tolerate the same shit again. And Tina, do I have to really spell it out? One time I indicated it to her very slightly, and that left such an impact on her that she stood up, took out her diary and made a note and showed it to me, that she wrote into her own diary, on this and that day, Sadie finally admitted to me that she liked Jean, and yet she continued to do the things that she did. Now she had no excuse, but she did not care, and I was just tired to my bones. And now that he went out of his way to get with me, and now that he started pestering me to sleep with him, I knew that I just simply had more leverage and a leg to stand on when I expected certain things to go my way this time around. I saw how desperate he was to get with me, and I was just not ready to accept anything less than his undivided attention. And I never had to say it out loud. If he never initiated those hangouts with me only, without other girls, I would never even come to the conclusion that that's I needed, but he decided to do it on his own. And that led me to just realize how much I enjoyed just having Jean to myself, if not for any other reason than to just try it out, because that never happened to me before. Everything that happened between us was in private, but now that those girls were not around, all of a sudden he was hugging me in public, stealing flowers from people's gardens and giving them to me. He was all over me, and I was starting to really get a taste of the good life, of the life where I felt like a girl and I felt like the first choice. And yes, it's pathetic. I don't know, it was just so sad that that's how I felt. And the other girls too, like, we weren't that close, but since we saw each other in school all the time, it's not like I never saw anyone. It's more like I did not go out of my way to invite everybody. When Jean and the guys stopped inviting those girls, they still did, but it wasn't as often anymore. And the other girls were just caught in the storm. But the other girls, with the exception of my best friend, did not even care. My best friend was also like close to the guys the same way Tina and I were, but Anne and the rest of the girls, they weren't really close to the boys anyway. And so I just had all these relatively reasonable excuses not to try and invite all the girls over, and I had all the reasons not to do so. So I was enjoying Jean to myself, but unfortunately it came at a price, and it was well intended by Jean that I guess I felt the way that I did. I don't think he did anything just to make me happy. All of it was just to soften me up, also so he could do whatever he wanted and not be seen, just in case. I guess he wanted to deal with Tina and Anne in the future, or because he was ashamed of Anne seeing him acting this way or whatever. So none of it was for my benefit, and it's just hard for me to think about that because it's so ill-advised the way I just let him ruin my friendship, and I just willingly participated in that just to get with this absolute fucking loser. So unfortunately, this ill-advised makeout session was his goal to start asking me if I wanted to sleep with him. He just kept pestering me. I guess like mid-makeup session or something, he broached the subject, and I was like, nah, man. And he just kept mentioning it, and I just hated that, and I don't know why I couldn't just say no. I feel like it wasn't that he meant that much to me. It was more like I thought that he did. I thought that for some reason I should hang on to that relationship, and I don't know why. I was gaining nothing from it. I already was outgrowing him intellectually, like spiritually, and I knew that. I was only gonna become smarter and more like self-aware, you know. I was just starting. I was so fucking young, and he was already like stagnating in his mid-20s, and you know, people can evolve their whole life, but not many people can. It's a myth. It's like cope to say that everyone can grow after they hit a certain age, and he was certainly not one of those people. So one day he just, I guess, annoyed me so much that I just thought it's easier to just give in, the same way that Tina did when they had their first time. And it was just the most unromantic, cold thing ever. It wasn't even the same day. We kind of made the fucking dick appointment the next day, and I went over, and we just did the deed, and it was just so cringe. I was afraid that it's gonna hurt. There was no foreplay involved. It just went right in. Like, he was so whack. I don't know, like, I think Tina was lying when she said that he was good at it, because honestly, again, he was actually at home and his fucking door did not lock properly, so it was a very risky ordeal. She invited us to drink some vodka, and we drank like a couple of shots with her, and then we were alone, and I look at him and he's pale in the face and his hands are fucking shaking, and I look at him and I'm like, what's going on, what's up with you? And I was the other way around. I was so relieved that this whole thing was over, so I was like so relaxed, very calm, whatever, maybe it's shock, I don't know. And he's like, were you really a virgin? And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, anatomically there wasn't, there weren't things going on that normally happen when a girl's a virgin. Like more just bullshit stuff that a couple of lessons of fucking sex ed could have solved. I did not bleed basically, and that was the whole ordeal with him. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, he wasn't angry, he's accusing me or anything, but he was so shaken by that. And I'm just like, I still to this day don't really understand what it was that had him so confused, that his hands were like visibly shaking when he thought that I was lying and have been lying this whole time. Oh, he seemed like afraid of me for a minute, like maybe it was very important to him or something that would make him like a real deal pedo. He probably thought that being someone's first is like this notch on his belt or something, and now he was upset. Don't ask me. And then we did it a couple of times more. I don't remember the second time at all. I have like a vague memory of it. Maybe that was when he ripped my bra because he could not open it. And it was such an assholey thing of him to do. And of course he did not buy me a new one or offer to or anything. It's like he still behaved the same way with me. He was nice with me. He talked to me a lot. He liked spending time with me. He wasn't rude or neglectful or anything. If anything, he was like more affectionate to me in public. Before that, he was friendly to me in public and showing me signs that he preferred my company to everyone else's and stuff. But now he was genuinely affectionate and hugging me and like holding my hand and stuff like that in public. And the thing that's absolutely unhinged is the fact that I guess after the second time I was late on my period and I started worrying that I might, be pregnant, and I was not yet at the point where that would be a huge concern. It wasn't out of the ordinary, I guess, but I was like thinking about that, and I even told Tina that I guess at this point she knew what was going on, and in school we were just chatting and I told her, and she was just like looking at me. When Tina looks at you like you're the crazy one, that's your go to just check yourself in some mental institution for real. And we were outside with friends on this rare occasion where every other girl was also there. And I guess we were having a picnic or something, and everyone was already drunk. It was dark and late. We were in these woods, and Jean and I were kind of chilling on this picnic blanket, and everyone was there. Anne was there, Tina was there, but he just didn't care. Maybe, the darkness and lack of visibility made him more bold, so he kind of started like making out with me and I don't know, asking me to go home with him or something, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm late. And I don't remember per se what he said, but it wasn't anything like him being scared or reacting in a way that you would expect from a douchebag like him. It was more like just a chill reaction, something along the lines of like, I mean, what happens or something like that. And I was just like, yo, I could have had a baby that would be 20 fucking years old now, and I could have been sharing it's a crazy story. But anyway, I don't know. It's funny that I'm recording that particular bit of information later because it completely slipped my mind. But yeah, that's also what happened, and it could have been a terrible fucking disaster. But fortunately for me, everything, was just a false alarm, and I got my period like a couple of days later. The third and last time was actually like interesting because we were again spending time at his place. The cousins Dan and I, we got bored, so we went outside, and this other cousin that I never mentioned, he was good at playing guitar, and our music tastes correlated very well together. We did a lot of like guitar playing and singing together, and we were outside and we were waiting for other people to come back. They were like on a beer run or something. We were sitting at a bus stop. It was maybe like 10 o'clock at night or something, and we started playing and singing, and we had the best time ever. And the cops were actually called on us because we were kind of like loudish, and the cops were just like laughing it off, and they were like, just chill a bit. But yeah, he was a cool guy and I liked him very much. And now basically Jean and Dan were in the same room, and I did not have any problem preferring Dan. I was sitting on his lap. He was constantly hugging me. I was wearing his jacket outside. He was loving on me, and I did not care about Jean at all. I barely thought of Jean. Jean was not even close to my mind when Dan was around because Dan was giving me mad endorphins. And Dan kind of started being a little bit more weird because he started kissing my neck. Like not kissing on it, but like little pecks, and he would be just doing that a lot. Dan was very likable and very hard not to like. He was Sam's bestie at the time, and Jean could not just, bully him into going away like he could with this other guy that he kind of like alpha dogged away from me. He knew that Dan would not stand for it. Dan was like the same level of street than Jean was. They grew up in rough neighborhoods, and they were friendly. Jean never showed jealousy or anything. Dan knew that there was something going on. I mean, he talked to the same people that we talked to, so he would have known this information by this point. And Dan was kind of joking with Jean and egging him on and telling him that he's like slow for not already getting with me because I was such a good girl. He just kept saying to Jean that he's a loser for not recognizing such a great person and such a great girl, blah 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 blah. I mean, he was trying to set me up. It was only like that the dude was just not shit. I feel like Dan just saw that I had what Dan perceived as a crush on a guy, or heard about it, and he was like being my wingman, and he was trying to make me happy. One time, these girls were hanging out right next to us, so the cousin started talking to them, and of course Jean comes running and trying to talk to them too, because Jean is a dog, and Dan was hanging out with me, and he told me, let's go, come on, and he led me away, and he was like, we're gonna make Jean jealous, and he led me away, and I hear immediately like Jean's voice, and he's like, Dan, what the fuck you doing, Dan? Get back here. And of course, I'm more than willing to go. Dan could have told me to go to the North Pole, and I would have followed. Yeah, and Dan grabbed me, and like, movie like, that scene after the Second World was nothing there. There was nothing romantic anymore. There was this one time I feel like Gene was getting jealous over Dan and I after, that kiss and whatever. So he just led me away and started telling me his whole life story for some reason. And he started telling me how depressed he was, which I knew. He told me a bunch of times before, but he started being this like sad puppy and trying to get me, I guess, to pity him, because I feel like he just wanted my attention. He was not getting it, and it's not like he could get it with genuine love that would have, called for my attention. He had nothing to give me, so that's the last thing that he had in his arsenal. His mom died when Sam was 8 and Gene was 13, I believe, and Sam was young enough so that it wasn't this soul crushing, but Gene was completely traumatized by it. He loved her so much and he could not stop thinking about her. He missed her. Their dad actually died on the way to the country where we met, because he had a health condition, and they arrived with his dead body even before we went to the trip where we all met through the grapevine. Everyone kind of knew about that. It's just so fucking sad. And as he was telling me this, he was hugging me while he was talking about that. I felt hot tears just raining on my shoulder. I'm talking like one after the other. He was crying his eyes out. Man, like, I just said that I feel like he turned on the waterworks to manipulate me, and I still believe that. But he was digging from a very real place in his soul. And then he was like, sometimes I think that I love you so, so, so much. And I'm like, wow, how romantic, thanks. Even then, being as naive as I was, I just felt very cynical about that sentence. It just told me everything that I needed to know. I do believe that just to feel good about himself, just to feel like he had a shred of decency, or that he would be capable of being a good man, he would have loved to love me. That would have made things 1,000 times easier for him. I was the only one who cared about him, but he just didn't. So, we can't change how we feel. So, if Gene was hoping that this conversation would change anything, he was mistaken. The rest of the day, I was still paying Dan attention. Actually, we were walking somewhere, and Dan was holding my hand, and Gene, for the second time in our story, took my hand as well and was walking with me and with another guy holding hands. And I mean, I just let him, because if he wants to do the most, knowing damn well he doesn't love me, doesn't wish to make things official, doesn't claim me, why not? He can do the extra shit for no reason. I just let it all happen. I was so passive back then, but then again, there was never any guy worth the trouble, worth me getting active, and there was no guy where I felt secure expressing myself and expressing my feelings. So I just let guys do whatever I was comfortable with, and I guess a little bit more than that, but I was just having my moment, and I knew that things with Dan were about to end. He was dealing with like 2 girls at the same time. One of them was kind of a side bitch, and then he had this official long-term relationship or whatever, and he was constantly flirting with other girls that I heard of. I was not even on the radar compared to, him actually sleeping with like multiple women at the same time. He was a dog. I was just this like, I don't know, side project or something. Someone he just, I don't know why he was dealing with me. He seemed to genuinely like me very he was like kissing on my neck sometimes. Far be it for me to understand this fucking man. I knew that things are about to end and I'll probably never see Dan again. And this is basically exactly how things ended. He got married to this girl. He actually left to marry her on the day of my 16th birthday. Jumping a little bit ahead, but whatever. And I was very sad, but I wasn't heartbroken or anything. It was more just like withdrawal from all his, attention and affection and the butterflies in my stomach that he gave me, but it wasn't love or anything. And he was just a genuinely cool guy, and actually I met his wife a couple of times and she was very cool. I liked her, so no hard feelings at all. The last time I saw Dan was more than a decade ago. Sam and Dan are no longer friends, and even if they were, I don't see Sam enough for us to see each other, so unfortunately I never met him again, or fortunately, more likely. This story with Dan was basically almost over, but so was, as it turned out, the story with Jean, because Jean will end up blaming me for the very same shit he was constantly encouraging me to do in the first place. It was just that he did not like being on the receiving end of the same toxic shit that he was cultivating in my head. So what ended up happening was actually far worse than if Jean and I just stopped talking. It was a whole ass extinction level event on my social life, and I was dramatic, not gonna lie. So what happened was, leading up to it, since Jean was no longer enthusiastic about the girls being involved that much, I had to improvise, and I met up with Tina on my own time. And of course we did continue to shit talk Jean occasionally, because Jean continued to not be shit. Why wouldn't we? And I don't remember talking shit about Tina to Jean. I guess there was some level of sniggering or something. I don't know. Honestly don't remember. And I'll just give everyone the benefit of the doubt and just say that I must have talked shit about Tina in a way as well. I just had a lot of resentment for those two people, and unfortunately they were also like the closest people I had to talk to, and it was just so wrong on my part, and I had no business being in this situation. I was also hanging out with this girl that I've known for years. She was actually 2 years younger than I was, and she had no business being around those dudes. I was so wrong for trying to integrate her into the group and inviting her along. She was way too young. She was like at best 14, and she was kind of sheltered before, so I just wanted her around. I wanted us to share a friend group. I wanted us to share a social life, to witness each other's life more, and I wanted someone to talk to. I like this girl a lot, and I still do. And one time, this girl and I were out, and Jean was also around, and this gym buddy of his that I kind of had a smallest crush on just by the virtue of him being my age, and I was just so done with those old dudes. And now that Jean and I were, sleeping together, Jean was all over me the second this guy came around. He was constantly hugging me, constantly trying to sit next to me, to be in my space. He was really trying to dominate this guy in a way. I felt some competition from Jean, because I guess Jean heard about this crush and thought that it was a real deal. So now he was all over me the second this guy came around, and it was actually very awkward. So now the four of us are outside, and Jean's vibe is kind of odd. He was just no longer this relaxed, funny self. But then he said something rude to my friend, which was very out of character for him, and I told him off and defended her. And next thing I know, we're fighting and saying mean things to each other. And it just escalated for some reason, the way it like never escalated before. And then we ended up just parting ways, and I was just so shocked by it and so heartbroken. And I don't know, it was just so cringe, and it's such a painful memory because I cringed so hard because I started like texting his friend, and like I don't know, it was just so bad. But then after we came home, I just kind of, I guess I met up with Tina or something. I came over to her place, and every other girl happened to be here, and they all just told me that they know I talk badly about him, which I did not even talk that badly about him at all. I don't even remember what exactly happened. I don't know, it was very hurtful to me. I went home, and this started a very long summer for me, where I had just no one in my corner, and I had no friends but this one girl. I got very depressed. I did not talk to anybody. Like Sam and this other cousin, they kind of were still on friendly terms with me, even though they did not go out of their way to talk to me, to reach out to me. But I was just all on my own, alone in my room, depressed. But my parents never made any effort to get me out of this depression, to try and talk to me eye to eye. And I was just completely alone. And this girl, I was getting her to still hang out with this group because I was trying to get back into the group through her, which was very manipulative and shitty of me to do. And it ended up becoming a complete fucking catastrophe because she started drinking too much. She started to mess with Sam, got feelings for him, and then she started dating Gus, and that was a fucking mess because he happened to be her first. I don't even, like, it's not my story to tell, even though she told me that I can talk about this to, other people in our group so they know who Gus is as a person. It was decades later that she told me. At one time they were sleeping together, and Gus basically did something unconsensual, without warning. That's all I'm gonna say. When she told me that, I was like so disgusted and pissed off. Like, it's always the quiet guy, like, and honestly, they were all very sus. There was one time, I'm just gonna go on a tangent because it kind of fits the subject of Gus at the moment. One time, Tina and I were hanging out with the boys, and she got absolutely fucking shit-faced. So she was basically just slipping it off in the room, and everyone else was in the living room. We were having fun, talking, whatever. And then we walk back to the room, and what do we see? We see that Gus is sleeping next to her, and her panties and pants are off. So they had sex, and we were very shocked by it. Like, it did not occur to us or to me at the moment that what we saw was basically rape. She left it off after, and she was like very weird about it. We got into a fight because I was like trying to get her to say what the fuck she was thinking, and she did not say that, oh, I was unconscious or anything, but she was like, so what, which I now know is just, a defense mechanism. But it was all very much above my pay grade. I was too young for that shit. But she claims that it was like consensual. Even worse than that, the same day I think that happened, she was basically like still sleeping, and it was time for me to go. I was like, let's get home, it's late. And she was like, nah, I'm good, I'm fine. And then these fuckers, like these people that I thought were like friends, that I genuinely liked, they really showed their like smiling and, oh, you can leave, it's fine, she's in good hands, and like let her stay. And I'm like, the more they tried to get me to go without her, the more I was adamant about taking her with me. And I don't know how I could know at the moment that I absolutely needed to evacuate this girl from there, and yet I still remained friends with them later. I think I did not think of it as rape per se, but I just did not want her to get into more situations and more trouble and more sexual events that she did not need to be in. That was what I was thinking, like, but I did get a very much predatory vibe from them. And I'm like, nah, she's coming with me. And she's like, no, I'm fine. And I was just pulling her. I like damn near just pulled her hair. I was like, bitch, you're gonna come with me. I don't fucking care. And I did everything to get her to put on her damn shoes, take her belongings, and to come with me. And then, of all fucking people, the one guy I thought was like actually decent, this cousin that I barely talk about because he never got into stupid shit that we all were like involved in, he came up to me and he was, leave us this piece of meat. And we use this expression, piece of meat, as like just to say that someone is drunk off their ass. It was a common expression, but still, like, what? And this is where I like just silently just opened the door, pushed her out, and just dragged her home. So yeah, as you can see, this is the place where I sent this poor friend of mine that was naive and young. And then she told me a story that they were at the wedding and she, was invited as Gus's girlfriend, and Jean started fucking hitting on her. And she was like even younger than all of us were. I was so disgusted by this. When she told me this story, I was like, man, this man is the absolute worst. Like every bit of sympathy I've had for him was gone. Because even though we weren't talking and no one was talking to me, I still had a bit of sympathy for him. Let me just tell you about that story. And that kind of correlates to how I managed to weasel my way in back to the group. So, oh my god, this one's a doozy. Like, Tina is a fucking mess. Hot fucking mess. So, she had this boyfriend. Something about him rubbed me the wrong way for some reason. Sometimes we were being friendly and sometimes he was just getting on my fucking nerves. And then one time he suddenly reaches out to me and he's trying to hang out with me. So I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, oh, I need someone to talk to that understands what I'm talking about. You know more than anyone. You know how Tina is. We've broken up. And she basically fucked Sam at the fucking toilet at some party at Sam and Jean's place. I'm like, wow, great, amazing. So honestly, I was very lonely. I had no one to hang out with, and I never ever got any type of like vibe of him that he was trying to do anything other than just hang out. But the other factor was that I was kind of getting an inkling that I could use this guy to get back into Tina's good graces. And honestly, I was a fucking mastermind. That was the most conniving trick I've ever pulled in my life, and the fact that I succeeded was just crazy to me. So like, I thought to myself, maybe I should get them back into dating, which honestly, they had no business dating. They were a very toxic couple, but they kind of loved each other as well. At least he was like very in love with her. So my teenage ass thought that love was like the only thing that mattered. What did I know about loving relationship? Nothing. So why not try to bring them back together? So I was like talking to him and trying to bullshit him. I was saying that she has a sex addiction, that she has no control over her actions, she has no self-awareness, she just does she apparently also slept with this fourth cousin, so she slept with every guy in the group. Yeah, I don't know when that happened. That came out years later. But maybe he was lying because he felt left out. I don't know. I never talked to her per se about that. But yeah, I don't know what the fuck those fuckers were doing without me. He told me that Jean was now dating and again, which I was like, whatever. They slept together. Okay, great. Good to know. The more I heard, the more disgusted I just was. But I was so fucking lonely and I just missed the good times. I missed having people around. And so I was willing to return there. I could fix them, whatever. I was basically talking shit about Jean with this guy. He was more than willing to talk shit about him to me. And they used to be kind of buddy for some reason. I don't know why. He was friends with like the least likely people to even be good friends to him, like me and Jean. I don't know what the fuck was going on there. They were on the phone sometimes and I don't know, bro, what the fuck was going on. Maybe he thought that Jean had some insights into Tina's head, or he was afraid that Jean might want her and he was trying to like eliminate the competition by being all friendly. I don't know. But Jean did something to piss this guy off or something. But this guy was like, Sadie and I both think that you're an asshole and you ain't shit and blah blah blah. And I was egging him on. I wasn't planning on hiding behind this guy's back. But it ended up with Jean asking him to meet and Jean kind of beating his ass a little bit. I was honestly like not trying to have that happen. Me and this guy were cool, so he was an ally at this point. But Jean kind of hit him on the face one time and this guy fell. But Jean ended up breaking his thumb. And so what, like, can you imagine what I was feeling at the moment? No, you can't, because what I felt was sorry about Jean. Like, what? Who the fuck cares? But I felt bad, and because I was imagining the pain that he was feeling, and I was like doing my best to empathize with him for some reason. And that wasn't because I loved him, it was because I used to have this like crazy connection to him and hanging on to this non-existing thread. But then finally this guy found the strength to call Tina and they got back together, and the very next second, who was at the door? It was Tina. And she looked me in the eye and she was like, thank you. And I was like, whoa, I never expected that to actually work. He just told her everything. He told her that I had nothing but good things to say about her and this and that. I learned my lesson, bro. I learned my lesson, and to this day I don't talk shit about people behind their back unless I know that I'm talking to like a friend. Tina was kind of like still the ringleader, and so when she gave a go for me to return, everyone just accepted me. It was as if nothing happened. The only good thing that came out of this isolation phase was I really jump-started my English skill. I just started watching all these shows and reading comics, and to this day I'm a huge fucking comic book fan, and it opened a whole new world to me. So I returned back to the group, and the guys were also sometimes around. The guys and I were cool as if nothing happened. And Jean, I barely saw him and broke up with him again, or he broke up with her because she obviously did not like love him. It was just very obvious, and he was starting to gain weight, become very neckbeardy. He became very interested in computers. And then one time we were outside, everyone started to leave, and he was like, can you stay for a moment? And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And he just started talking to me, and he confided in me as if I was still his best friend. Like, at this moment I really understood that he needed me very much, that I was really his only friend in the world, and he was just desperate to connect again, to have someone in his corner. He was very pathetic. trying to fight people. People had to hold me back. Like those guys' wives were holding me back because I'm like so right and die for Jean at this point. But whatever. So the guy that started this fight with Jean, and it was completely Jean's fault. This guy did nothing. He was making fun of him as he walked by, and this guy just stopped and it was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And yeah, so we're sitting here and this guy walks by and he looks at us and he approaches us and he's like, hi. We're like, hi. And he's like, my wife just had a baby. And we're like, oh wow, congratulations. So we hugged him and he was so elated. He just basically exploded with this information because he saw familiar faces and he just wanted to share his, happiness. So that was such a sweet fucking moment, such a random moment, and it happened at the same day I became friends with Jean again. So it was just so sweet, and I don't know, odd that those things correlated together. Like there was this aura of just friendship in the air or something. So yeah, basically Jean and I were kind of friends again.